The twin suns of the alien planet Varen burned like molten gold across the endless desert. Captain Ryan Cole walked alone through the dunes, his armor scratched, his helmet covered in dust. He had been lost for 3 days since his ship crashed in the middle of nowhere. The air was dry, the sand endless, and his water was almost gone. Still, he kept walking, because stopping meant dying. Then, through the roaring wind, he heard something strange. It wasn't the sound of a storm or a machine. It was a voice, soft but desperate, calling for help. Ryan froze and turned toward the sound, his heartbeat quickening. Through his visor, he saw a shape moving in the sand ahead. It looked like someone struggling, sinking, and disappearing into the golden pit. Without thinking, Ryan ran. His boots sank deep into the soft ground, the heat biting at his legs. As he got closer, he saw her clearly. A girl, not human. Her skin glowed faintly blue, and her long silver hair shimmered like liquid light. Her arms flailed helplessly as she sank deeper into the quicksand, her terrified eyes reflecting the two suns. "Don't move," Ryan shouted, but she didn't understand his words. Her lips moved in a different language, broken by gasps and sand. Still, she looked at him with pure fear and hope. He dropped his rifle and pulled a cable from his survival pack. Tying one end around his wrist, he threw the other toward her. For a moment, she hesitated. Then her trembling hands grabbed the rope. Ryan planted his boots and started pulling with all his strength. The sand hissed and clung to her like a living monster. "Hold on," he shouted, his arms shaking, his breath heavy. The alien girl tried to climb but slipped, crying out in fear. Ryan didn't stop. He pulled harder, ignoring the pain in his muscles. With one final pull, he dragged her free from the quicksand and fell back, both of them landing hard on the hot sand. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The girl coughed, gasping for air, her glowing skin covered in sand. Ryan looked at her, amazed. Her beauty was unreal, like something out of a dream. She wasn't just an alien girl. There was something royal about her. Around her neck was a silver crest, shaped like twin wings. Even through the dirt and exhaustion, she looked noble, elegant, and fragile. She tried to speak, her voice soft and melodic, but he couldn't understand. Still, he could hear gratitude in her tone. He smiled weakly and said, "You're safe now," knowing she wouldn't understand. The alien girl looked into his eyes, her expression full of emotion. Then she touched his chest plate lightly, whispering a word that sounded like a blessing. The wind began to rise again. Dark clouds twisted across the horizon, and lightning flashed far away. A sandstorm was coming. Ryan looked around, searching for cover. He saw a rocky ridge in the distance and pointed toward it. "Come on, we have to move," he said, motioning with his hands. She nodded, still weak but trusting him. Together they stumbled through the growing storm. The sand whipped around them like fire, and visibility dropped to nothing. Ryan kept her close, shielding her with his body as they climbed the ridge. Finally, they reached a shallow cave in the rocks and collapsed inside. The storm raged outside, howling like a living beast. Inside, the two of them sat in silence, breathing heavily. Ryan took off his helmet, sweat dripping down his face. The girl watched him with wide golden eyes, still shaking. He gave her his canteen and gestured for her to drink. She hesitated, then smiled faintly and took a sip. Her smile was soft, full of warmth and quiet strength. As the storm roared outside, Ryan realized how strange this moment was. Two beings from different worlds, sitting side by side. No words, no common language, just shared survival. He didn't know who she really was, or that his small act of kindness would echo through the stars. He didn't know that somewhere, far beyond the desert, armies were already preparing to march in her name. And that one day, she would return to this same man, not as a helpless girl, but as the commander of an alien army. The storm outside raged for hours, a living wall of dust and lightning swallowing the horizon. Inside the small cave, Ryan built a small heat pack fire and tried to stay awake. The alien girl sat across from him, her knees drawn close, her glowing eyes fixed on the flame. She looked fragile yet otherworldly, her silver hair reflecting the soft orange light. Ryan studied her quietly, wondering who she was. He had seen alien species before during his missions, but none like her. There was something royal, something sacred in the way she held herself, even when frightened. When she noticed his gaze, she smiled softly, then pressed her hand to her heart and whispered a word. It sounded like Tale or something close. Maybe it was her name, he thought, and pointed to himself. Ryan, he said slowly. She repeated it, her voice gentle. Ryan. He smiled, nodding, and for the first time since the crash, he felt a strange comfort. Hours passed, the storm began to fade, but exhaustion hit him like a hammer. Ryan leaned back against the stone wall, his eyes closing. He heard her voice faintly, a soft lullaby in a language older than his world. When he finally drifted into sleep, he felt her hand brush his arm gently, as if in gratitude. When he woke, the storm was gone, and sunlight filtered through the cave mouth. He sat up quickly. She was gone. Her footprints led outside, into the dunes. Ryan called out, Tale, but there was no answer. He ran out into the blinding sand, scanning the endless emptiness. There was nothing, just wind, silence, and the memory of her voice. For 2 days he searched, leaving marks in the sand for direction. No trace, no signal, no ship. By the 3rd day, he returned to the wreckage of his own vessel, weak and tired. He started repairing the emergency beacon, thinking maybe rescue might still come. But his thoughts never left her. The way she looked at him, the way she had said his name, the way her crest shimmered. It haunted him. Weeks later, the beacon worked, and a Federation patrol picked him up. Ryan told them about the planet, the crash, and the alien girl. But no one believed him. The planet was not listed as inhabited, they said. No settlements, no life signs, nothing. They called it hallucination, shock from dehydration. Ryan stopped arguing and stayed silent. But inside, he knew she was real. Months passed. He returned to duty on a frontier outpost near the edge of known space. The memory of that desert never left him. Sometimes he thought he saw her in dreams, standing on the dunes, whispering his name. And each time, he woke with his heart pounding. Then one night, alarms blared across the base. Sensors detected unknown ships entering orbit. The officers panicked, calling for backup. The skies above turned silver with strange lights. Ryan ran to the watchtower, staring upward. Hundreds of alien crafts shimmered through the clouds like metallic birds. The soldiers readied defenses. But the ships did not fire. Instead, they formed a perfect formation and descended slowly. A single vessel, larger than the rest, landed near the outpost gates. Its surface gleamed with symbols Ryan recognized, the twin-winged crest. His breath caught. He stepped forward while others held back. The ship's ramp opened with a hiss, and from the light stepped a figure, tall, regal, graceful. Her armor glowed faintly blue, her silver hair braided like threads of starlight. Around her stood warriors, their weapons lowered in respect. Ryan froze, unable to believe what he was seeing. It was her, the girl he had pulled from the sands, now a warrior princess commanding an army. She walked toward him, her golden eyes filled with the same emotion he remembered. When she reached him, she removed her helmet and smiled. Ryan, she said softly, her voice trembling. The soldiers around him stared in silence, unable to understand the moment. She spoke again, louder this time, her words echoing in the alien tongue. Then, to everyone's shock, her army knelt, thousands of alien warriors lowering their heads to the human soldier who once saved their princess. Ryan stood speechless. The same desert wind from Varen seemed to whisper around them. He realized then that what he had thought was a small act of kindness had become the reason an entire world had come to honor a human. The air around the human outpost stood still. Thousands of alien warriors knelt in silence as the alien princess stood before Ryan, her golden eyes soft but unshaken. The human soldiers at the base didn't know what to do, their weapons still raised, their fear mixing with disbelief. But Ryan, he couldn't move, couldn't speak. The girl he once pulled from quicksand now stood before him as the leader of an alien army. And the way she said his name, it carried both power and memory. She stepped closer, the metallic sound of her armor echoing against the dusty ground. Ryan looked up at her, still trying to believe what he was seeing. Tale, he whispered, his voice almost breaking. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Ryan, she said again, her accent soft but sure. Then she turned to her soldiers, and spoke in her own language. The warriors stood, pounding their chests in unison, their armor glowing with light. Ryan's commander shouted from behind, "Cole, what the hell is going on?" But Ryan didn't answer. The princess raised her hand, and the entire alien formation turned their weapons downward. The gesture was clear: peace, not war. Her translator device blinked green at her throat, and then she spoke again, her voice now understandable. "You saved me from the sands of death," she said, every word slow and full of weight. "You gave life to the daughter of Varen's high chief." Ryan's eyes widened. "You were the chief's daughter," he murmured. She nodded. "And now I am the high princess of all the clans of Varen." She looked around, her voice growing louder. "When I returned home, I told my father of the human who risked everything for one he did not know." Her soldiers stood proudly as she continued. "When our world was attacked by the Wrath, I took command of the United Tribes. I swore to honor the dead of life, and to find the one who saved me." Ryan didn't know what to say. The base's communication officers whispered among themselves, struggling to process the translation. The princess turned to him again. "We searched the stars for your signal," she said. "And when we found your world, I came as I promised." Her golden eyes glowed with emotion. "You saved one life, human, and now an army stands ready to repay you." The silence that followed was heavy. Ryan stepped closer, still overwhelmed. "I didn't save you for reward," he said quietly. She tilted her head, her expression gentle. "And that is why you are worthy." Then she removed the twin-winged crest from her armor and offered it to him. A symbol of royal gratitude, carved in crystal and light. The human soldiers gasped, realizing what they were witnessing. Ryan hesitated. "I can't take that." But she closed his hand around it, her touch warm and steady. "In our culture," she said softly, "a life debt cannot be broken, only honored." Her eyes met his. "You are now under the protection of the royal blood of Varen." Before anyone could speak, the sky above them shifted again. New signals appeared on radar. Another fleet was approaching, this time not friendly. Her expression turned sharp, the warmth in her face replaced by command. "The Wrath have found us," she said, her tone like steel. Ryan's commander shouted, "Hostile forces incoming." Alarms blared across the outpost, soldiers rushing into positions. But before they could prepare, the princess raised her arm. Her army moved as one, shields activating, ships taking formation. Blue energy domes expanded over the base, protecting both humans and aliens alike. Ryan looked at her, stunned. She met his gaze. "We came for peace," she said, "but we will not let you fall." The ground trembled as the enemy ships entered the atmosphere. Missiles streaked through the clouds, explosions flashing like dying stars. Ryan could feel the heat, the shockwaves, the chaos. But through it all, one thought burned in his mind. The girl he had saved was now saving him. The first blast struck, shaking the ground. Alien soldiers roared, returning fire with precision. Ryan grabbed his rifle, instinct kicking in. He ran beside her troops, shouting orders to the humans, coordinating the defense. For the first time, humans and aliens fought side by side, not as enemies, but as allies. And somewhere between the fire and dust, Ryan looked at her and saw the truth. This wasn't just repayment, it was destiny. The sky above the outpost burned red as the Wrath ships descended. Flames streaked through the clouds, lighting up the horizon with chaos. Human and alien alarms screamed together, echoing across the desert plains. The ground shook as the first wave hit, explosions tearing into the sand. Ryan braced himself, dust whipping across his face, while alien soldiers moved with perfect discipline beside him. Tale stood at the front line, her armor glowing with blue energy, her blade humming with alien light. She raised her arm, and hundreds of Varen warriors mirrored her, their weapons releasing waves of energy into the sky. The clash of technology thundered above as plasma met steel, fire met shields, and the heavens turned into war. Ryan shouted to the human gunners, "Target their flank. Follow the alien formation." He had never commanded alien troops before, but something about her army felt alive, connected. Every movement followed Tale's lead, every soldier's eyes on her like she was the heart of their strength. She fought like a living storm, her strikes graceful yet deadly, her silver hair moving with the heat of the air. A blast hit near Ryan, throwing him to the ground. The sand burned his hands as he tried to stand. Suddenly, Tale was beside him, blocking another incoming blast with her energy shield. She grabbed his arm and pulled him back to cover, her breathing fast but steady. "Stay close to me," she said through the translator, her voice calm even in chaos. Ryan nodded, picking up his rifle. "I didn't plan to leave anyway," he said with a grin. A faint smile touched her lips before she turned and leaped back into the fight. Her warriors surrounded the outpost in a circular formation, forming a living shield wall of glowing armor. The Wraith drones screamed overhead, firing bolts of plasma, but the alien defense shimmered like a living barrier. Ryan took aim and fired, his bullets tracing through smoke and metal, hitting one of the Wraith crafts. It spun down and exploded, lighting the desert sky like fireworks. Human soldiers cheered, seeing the aliens fight not as invaders, but as protectors. For the first time, both species stood shoulder to shoulder, united by one bond of trust. As the battle raged, the air turned thick with heat and sound. Ryan ran toward the communications tower, trying to restore long-range contact. A blast tore through the structure, sending metal flying. He fell, coughing, the static ringing in his ears. Through the smoke he saw movement. One of the Wraith, dark-armored and twice his size, approaching fast. The creature raised its weapon, and Ryan barely had time to aim. Then, a flash of blue light cut through the air, slicing the enemy cleanly in half. Tale stood there, her blade glowing with heat, her eyes fierce as lightning. She reached out her hand and pulled him up. "You humans fight bravely," she said, "but you bleed too much." Ryan laughed breathlessly. "We've got stubborn hearts." Before either could speak again, another explosion hit, shaking the ground under their feet. Tale looked up. The Wraith mothership had entered the lower atmosphere, its shadow covering the land. Her soldiers began chanting, their armor glowing brighter, energy rippling through their ranks. Tale pressed a command symbol on her wrist and shouted something in her language. Suddenly, hundreds of alien ships lifted into the air, surrounding the massive Wraith vessel. The sky became a storm of fire and light. Ryan watched in awe as the Varen fleet formed a pattern, an ancient symbol of unity that shimmered like a crown above the desert. Missiles and plasma waves collided midair, each explosion shaking the earth below. Tale looked toward him, her expression calm but resolute. "If we fail here," she said, "your world will fall with mine." Ryan stepped closer, his voice steady. "Then we fight together." She smiled softly, a rare warmth breaking through the warrior's mask. "In all the stars I have seen," she whispered, "no heart burns like yours." Then she turned, raised her weapon toward the sky, and shouted a single word that echoed across the battlefield. Her army roared back, charging forward with blinding blue light. Ryan followed, his rifle glowing from heat, his every step beside her. Human and alien forces merged into one unstoppable tide. The ground cracked beneath their charge, and the sandstorm above turned golden with fire. As they pushed toward the heart of the battle, Ryan realized something deep. He hadn't just saved a life on Varen. He had saved the bridge between two species. And now, standing beside her, he was fighting for both worlds. The Wraith ship began to falter, its engines screaming, smoke pouring across the sky. But even as it burned, a dark energy pulse gathered at its core. Tale's eyes widened. She knew what was coming. A self-destruct, a final strike that would destroy everything nearby. She shouted to her troops to fall back. But it was too late. The light exploded across the sky like a dying sun. The explosion tore the sky apart. It was not just fire, it was light itself, burning through clouds and time. Ryan felt himself thrown backward, his body weightless for a moment before everything turned white. There was no sound, no pain, only silence. Then darkness swallowed everything. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on something soft, not sand, not metal. A faint glow surrounded him, and strange vines of silver light stretched across the ground. His head throbbed, and the smell of ozone filled the air. Slowly, he pushed himself up and looked around. He wasn't on the battlefield anymore. The desert, the outpost, the ships, all were gone. Instead, He stood in a place that looked alive. The ground pulsed like a heartbeat. The air hummed with quiet energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. Tale, he whispered, his voice echoing strangely. No answer came. Panic crawled up his spine. He started walking, calling her name again and again. Each step left a faint mark of light behind him, as if the world itself was responding. Then he heard it, a soft hum, distant but familiar. He followed it, climbing over glowing ridges and luminous stones until he saw her. Tale lay a few meters away, her armor cracked, her body still. He ran to her side, dropping to his knees. Her eyes were closed, her breathing faint. Ryan gently lifted her head. "Hey, stay with me," he whispered. For a moment, she didn't move. Then her golden eyes fluttered open. "Ryan," she breathed weakly, her voice almost fading. Relief hit him like a wave. He smiled through tears. "You're alive." She looked around, confusion on her face. "This place," she said softly, "it is not our world." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, I figured that out." The ground shifted slightly, patterns of light swirling under their feet. She frowned, touching the glowing soil. "This is the core field, a space between life and death, between energy and matter." Ryan stared, not understanding. "So we're dead?" She shook her head slowly. "No, not yet." In the distance, massive figures of light began to move, shapes like ancient guardians, walking slowly through the glowing mist. Their forms were neither human nor alien, but something in between. "They are watchers," Tale whispered, "the ones who decide if we return." Her voice trembled, not from fear, but awe. Ryan helped her stand. "Then let's convince them," he said, half smiling. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You always speak like your heart is stronger than logic." "Maybe that's why I'm still alive," he said softly. The watchers stopped before them, their eyes like small suns. A deep sound filled the air, not words, but meaning. It vibrated through Ryan's bones, showing flashes of memory. Him pulling Tale from the quicksand, her returning with the army, the battle, the explosion. Then a new image appeared. The galaxy burning, worlds falling, and a single path of light connecting humans and Varen. Ryan stepped forward. "If you can't hear me," he said, "we're not finished, not yet. There's still a future worth saving." The light pulsed brighter, surrounding him like a storm of stars. Tale reached out, placing her hand over his heart. "If you choose to go back," she said softly, "you will not return as the same man." Ryan smiled faintly. "Neither will you." The watchers bowed their heads. The air split open in a blinding flash. The world of light cracked, and everything collapsed into motion. When Ryan opened his eyes again, he was lying under a blue sky. The sun was warm, the air clean. He turned his head. Tale was beside him, her armor restored, her eyes open. They were back on the desert plains, but the battlefield was gone. No wreckage, no bodies, only the quiet sound of wind. Tale sat up slowly, looking around. "The field chose to return us," she said. "We have been given a second life." Ryan laughed softly, exhausted but alive. "Then let's make it count." In the distance, the first of their soldiers began to appear, walking through portals of light one by one. They were alive too, reborn in a cleansed world. Tale looked toward the horizon, her expression calm. "The Watchers have seen our bond," she said quietly. "They know now that humanity's courage can stand beside ours." Ryan looked at her and smiled. "And maybe that's how peace begins." The desert wind rose again, carrying the sound of life, not war. Two survivors stood together under twin suns, united by fate. And somewhere deep in the sky, the Watchers of Light watched them walk forward, two hearts from different worlds, bound by one act of kindness that refused to die. The twin suns of Varen rose like slow-burning fires across the alien sky. Silver clouds drifted over cities of glass and stone, towers shaped like spirals of light reaching toward the heavens. For Ryan, the view from the descending shuttle was breathtaking. He had seen planets before, but nothing like this. A world rebuilt from war, glowing with life and energy. Beside him sat Tale, her armor polished, her eyes calm but distant. Her soldiers bowed their heads as she passed, whispering her name like a sacred word. To them she was not just a princess anymore. She was the savior of Varen, the one who led the clans to victory. And the human beside her, the stranger from another world, was now part of that legend. As the shuttle landed before a vast crystalline palace, Ryan's breath caught. Giant statues lined the entrance, each depicting ancient heroes of Varen. Now, workers were carving 2 new figures at the gate. One of them was unmistakably him. Ryan looked away, embarrassed, but Tale smiled softly. "It is our way," she said. "We honor the life that saves another." Inside the palace, the scent of strange flowers filled the air. Guards in glowing armor stood at every pillar, their eyes glowing faintly blue. At the far end of the hall sat the High Chief, Tale's father, his presence commanding, his crown alive with energy. When he saw them, he rose slowly, his gaze sharp as a blade. "My daughter returns," he said, his voice deep and echoing. "And she brings the human who defied the sands." Ryan bowed awkwardly, unsure of the customs. The chief studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "You carry no weapon against us," he said. "That alone makes you stronger than many kings." Tale smiled proudly. "Father, he saved me when no one else could." Her father's eyes softened. "Then the bond between your lives is sealed." As they spoke, courtiers watched from the shadows, some in admiration, others with suspicion. Ryan could feel their eyes on him, cold and curious. A human walking through the royal halls of Varen was unheard of. Later, as the celebrations began, Tale led him through a balcony overlooking the endless city. Light flowed through every street like a river of stars. Music echoed from below, the song of victory and rebirth. "It's beautiful," Ryan whispered. She turned to him, her hair shining under the suns. "It is because of you," she said. "Without your courage, this world would have been dust." He smiled. Maybe fate had other plans. Her expression softened. "On Varen, we do not speak of fate. We speak of choice." But the peace did not last. As the night deepened, a messenger rushed into the hall, his voice trembling. "My princess, unknown vessels near the outer ring," he said. "They carry no Varen signal." The hall fell silent, tension slicing through the air. The chief stood. "The Wrath survive," he said grimly, "and they come for vengeance." Tale looked at Ryan, determination replacing her calm. "I will not let my people fall again," she said. He nodded. "Then you won't face them alone." They moved together toward the command chamber, walls alive with glowing maps of the system. The alien generals saluted Tale and glanced uncertainly at Ryan. She raised her voice. "This human fought beside us when death was certain," she said. "He is a Varen now." The generals bowed their heads, their hesitation fading into respect. Hours later, as the fleet prepared, Ryan stood by a large window overlooking the night sky. He could see dozens of Varen ships rising into orbit, leaving streaks of light behind them. He felt Tale beside him, her voice soft. "Do you ever miss your home?" He hesitated. "Sometimes," he said. "But I think home is where you decide to stand." She smiled faintly. "Then perhaps your place is here." A gentle silence followed, filled only by the hum of the engines. Then Tale placed her hand on his shoulder. "When the next battle comes," she said, "I want you at my side, not as a soldier, but as my equal." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "Equal?" "Yes," she whispered. "The council may not see it yet, but Varen's future must be shared, not ruled by one kind alone." He nodded slowly, realizing what she meant. This was no longer about a rescue or a debt. It was the beginning of something greater, a bond that could unite 2 worlds. Outside, the stars glowed brighter, as if listening. And in that moment, under the twin suns of Varen, a human and an alien princess stood together. 2 lives intertwined by fate, preparing to face the storm that awaited beyond the stars. The war drums of Varen thundered across the sky. The twin suns burned red above the horizon as fleets rose into orbit, shining like fireflies against the black. Ryan stood at the command deck beside Tale, his armor newly forged in Varen steel and human alloy. It bore both emblems, the crest of twin wings and the insignia of Earth's explorers, united as one. Before them floated the Wrath Armada, a swarm of black ships glowing with crimson light. The space between them shimmered with tension, every heartbeat echoing like thunder. Tale's generals spoke in low voices, waiting for her command. But she remained silent, her eyes fixed on the void, her thoughts heavy. This battle, she whispered, will decide not just who rules, but who survives. Ryan looked at her, calm yet steady. We've faced worse, he said quietly, and we're still breathing. She smiled faintly. You humans always find hope where none exists. That's why we win, he replied, and she nodded slowly. The comms lit up with the voice of the Wrath commander, deep and cruel. Princess of Varen, it said, you hide behind a human, you dishonor your blood. The bridge fell silent, all eyes on Tala. She stepped forward, her voice sharp as lightning. You speak of honor, yet you burn worlds that do not bow, she said. You will find no fear here. The Wrath laughed, a hollow sound echoing through the channel. Then you will find extinction. The screen went dark, and the battle began. Thousands of beams of light erupted into the void, painting the darkness with chaos. Varen ships moved in elegant formations, their energy shields pulsing like hearts of blue. Human reinforcements from the nearby outpost joined in, guided by Ryan's commands. Together they fought as one. Earth and Varen, united by courage. Ryan's voice rang through the comms, calm but firm. Squadrons Delta through Echo. Push left, target their central ship. Explosions lit the stars as the two armadas clashed. Tale's flagship shook violently, alarms flashing red. Shields at 70%, a soldier shouted. Ryan steadied himself against the console. Keep firing, don't let them regroup. The battle raged for hours, neither side giving ground. Then, a surge of red energy erupted from the Wrath flagship. A weapon unlike anything they had seen before. It tore through Varen's front line, splitting ships like glass. The blast shook their entire fleet, and silence followed. Tale clenched her fists, her golden eyes burning with fury. They are using Starcore energy, she said, the power of a dying sun. Ryan turned to her, realizing what it meant. That weapon could destroy planets. She nodded. Unless we stop it. Without hesitation, Ryan said, we end it here. He activated his armor, stepping toward the launch bay. Tale grabbed his arm, her voice breaking slightly. You can't, it's suicide. He looked at her gently. You once told me fate is a choice, he said. This is mine. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then her expression softened. Then I choose not to let you go alone, she said firmly. Minutes later, their small assault craft launched through the chaos, weaving through wreckage and light. Together, they broke into the heart of the Wrath flagship. Inside, the corridors glowed crimson, the air thick with energy. They moved quickly, side by side, cutting through soldiers and drones with perfect rhythm. Every movement mirrored trust, every glance silent understanding. Finally, they reached the core chamber. A swirling sphere of red light pulsed at its center, alive with the fury of a collapsing star. Ryan stared at it, feeling its power burn through the floor. Tale's voice was soft but steady. If it detonates, both our worlds will fall. He nodded. Then we stop it. Together they placed their energy cells into the reactor ports, creating an overload loop. The core began to tremble, its light shifting from red to white. Alarms screamed across the ship. You have 30 seconds, Tale said, her voice calm even as the walls shook. Ryan looked at her, smiling faintly. You're getting good at this whole human bravery thing. She smiled back, and you're getting better at not dying. They ran toward the exit, the corridors collapsing behind them. Their ship launched just as the Wrath flagship exploded, a wave of white fire consuming everything in silence. The shockwave rippled across space, tearing through darkness and leaving behind light. When the light faded, the stars returned. The Wrath were gone, their ships drifting lifelessly. On the bridge of the Varen fleet, silence gave way to cheers. The war was over. Ryan and Tale stood in the observation deck, watching the sunrise over Varen. The colors painted the sky gold and blue, blending like two souls joined as one. She turned to him. The clans will speak of this day for generations, she said. He smiled softly. Tell them it started with a human who pulled someone out of the sand. She laughed, her eyes shining. No, she said. It started with hope. The twin suns rose higher, casting light on the new alliance that would shape the galaxy. Two worlds united by a single act of kindness. And somewhere far above, the ancient Watchers of Light watched quietly, knowing that humanity's heart had once again changed the fate of stars.